Hello, Lisbon. You're very welcome. And I think we'll take that as a good time to start.
Yeah, I think so. So welcome to our first tasting in Europe. Actually, we are really excited to see you all because we haven't been able to see our customers since a few months now. So it's quite amazing to see.
More than a few months.
So it's quite amazing to see you. And actually, we have a lot of nationalities today, so it's quite amazing to see you all. So I'm Alex. I'm in charge of the international development at ID Wine. And here is
I'm Orla. I am in charge of international marketing at Ideal Wines. You're all very welcome.
And today, so we are really delighted to welcome Sylvain Pataille. So you can already see him on the screen. Before we start, I'm just gonna give you some info, and then we will get to the most important part, so the tasting. So this event is recorded, so if you don't feel comfortable, you can switch off your camera. Of course, we would much prefer to see your faces.
Your beautiful faces.
So for the tasting, you need 2 or 3 glasses because we are going to test the whites first, and then we are going to test the 2 reds. And it would be really nice to taste the second red at the end also. So please save just a bit of wine so you can try again the wines at the end.
Yeah, the wines are obviously beautiful, but please don't drink them all at once because we will come back to it. And I think all of you now have probably served your wines, or if you want to serve as we go, that's fine too.
And also, because like we are not a lot today, please just feel like you are among friends. So if you want to just participate, to share your thoughts about the wine or ask many questions, you can or unmute your microphone, or you can also put directly your questions on the chat that is just on the right of your screen.
Yeah, we're not in school. We really want to hear what you think and what you love, and we want your feedback. So just jump in.
Great. And then now we're going to leave this we are just going to welcome Sylvain Pataille, who is here. Sylvain, are you here? Yeah. You just need to unmute your microphone.
It's no more. I've got the sound. Yeah, hi everybody. I hope the wines will show well this evening. I hope they will show as well as last week with French people. And the wines were, thanks to the vinot, very good, much better than at home. It's maybe a good method to try the wines. But last week I told that when the wines show so well, the volume should be magnum of vinot. It would be better.
Yeah. Actually, at the beginning, the vinots were smaller, but we asked them to be a bit bigger because we thought that it was. When we taste wine, we want to really taste it, so it's quite nice. So maybe as we start, maybe you can talk a bit about Marsannay, because I'm not sure, it's not the most famous appellation of Burgundy. So
yes, but it's changing, and we are very proud and very lucky to be in this place. It was a very unfamous place, but it's a bit strange because in the past it has been a very good place. In the 16th and 17th century, it has been a place where the Dukes of Burgundy have made some wine. And wait for me, I'm just taking dogs out.
I'm gonna.
I think.
I was wondering if everyone else is on mute, but I think that was Sylvain's dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Sorry. This is the issue when it's live.
Exactly.
Excuse me, my daughter has a dog who is just 3 months old and he is awful. He was playing because nobody was taking care of him. Okay, so I just continue. Yes, in the past, in the 16th, 17th century, Marsannay has been some of the terroirs of Marsannay have been very famous because of the Dukes of Burgundy. And the last wine we'll try, Clos du Roy, is called Clos du Roy because it was owned by Dukes of Burgundy. And in France history, the Dukes of Burgundy were stronger than King of France. And and Louis XI in the 15th century has converted when he has won versus Jokes. He has converted the name of Clos du Roy in Clos du Roy. You know, there's very much history, and the terroirs are very good. But the history of Marsannay has been very, 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 very close from industrial revolution, and in the 18th and 19th century, we have produced some wine that was sold to the workers, to the factories in Dijon. That is the city that is just six kilometers from Marsannay, and it has changed many things because as we were very, the business was very good. It was very, very good. You know, when you look on the map, there's Dijon, Chenauve, Marsannay, and Couchet, and the Marsannay appellation is located on Couchet, Marsannay, and Chenauve, the three first villages from Dijon. So we are the first villages from Côte de Nuit, and we are just 3 kilometers from Fissin and 6 from Gevrey, and the soils are very close from Gevrey. And you know, this appellation has changed very much in the 80s and 90s by understanding that common wines were not of very good value, and that in Burgundy, and it's quite new, even in the famous villages, that in Burgundy we are made to make some great wines. It's not interesting to produce wine in Burgundy. The soils are not so generous, and it's Pinot Noir has to be great, and Chardonnay is the same. And yes, I think it's our way to make some great wines, and to try to, to give them so much more energy, so much more complexity, and we never know. I think it's never finished. It's always very interesting to transform the wines on the philosophy of the viticulture. So on the 3 villages, we obtained the Marsannay village appellation in 1987. Quite recent, yeah, just 30 years. We are trying to obtain the Premier Crus, but they could be so obvious when you look at the soils, when you try the wines. But you have to convince an administration that is made of all the other aways of France. It's called, that makes rules for appellations, and it's so long to explain them and to convince them, and it's very it's a political way, and because there are all the areas, it's very long. And we have started the Premier Crus in 2002, 20 years ago.
So it's a 20-year struggle for the Premier Cru.
Yeah. First, we have started in 2002. So not 20, excuse me, it's just 19. It's impressive, but it's France. It's normal. It's administration in France.
And so, why did you fall in love with Marsannay and not with another part of Burgundy? Why did you choose this specific appellation?
Yeah, were you born there? Or?
Because my grandfather, my grandfather were born here. My father wasn't one grower anymore because in the 50s, 60s, my grandfather and his cousins and brothers were. It was so difficult. The business was so difficult that everybody has stopped, and just a few ones. The superficie was too small to live in this period, and nobody was taking care about this appellation, and it was too cheap to live. And it was just after the Second World War, and it was completely different with what we live nowadays, where the Burgundy is it's completely mad, but yet at the opposite, there's so much money that comes in Burgundy, and there's too much money comes. The vines are exploding. The price of vines is completely crazy, and completely crazy. For example, in the Grand Cru, the price of vines is from 20 to 60 million euros by hectare. It's impressive. But it's Burgundy. It's like this right now, and But in Marsannay, it's a bit different. You know, we have very great terroirs. I'm sure of it. I don't succeed to find the difference between Marsannay and the other villages. Just history, just reputation that is a bit lower. And it's maybe very interesting because it has permitted to a guy like me who was passionate of wine. I was an enologist. When I was a child, I wanted to be a wine grower, but I didn't think it would be in Marsannay. I wanted to be a wine grower somewhere else. I didn't know where, but I've succeeded to make it to become a wine grower in my grandfather and my ancestors' village. It's a dream.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a real achievement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Not too much weight of history.
Yeah, I don't mind. You know, I couldn't imagine it could be possible. It's quite strange. Yeah, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yeah.
Maybe you can just show some pictures because one of our team members was at your vineyard last week and actually took some pictures because I think it's always better when you can imagine. So sorry, the pictures like the sky is really gray, but it was not good weather.
Yeah, and there's a map of the appellation. So the appellation Marsannay represents 330 hectares. On the village, there's a bit more, but because there's on the bottom of the slope, there are some Bourgogne and Coteau Bourguignon appellations that are not Marsannay. And it's classified for the moment. It does change, but you know, all the red on pink, all the red is Marsannay Rouge and Marsannay Blanc. Yeah. And because it can be produced everywhere, but rosé has decreased very quickly in the last 10-15 years, excuse me. And the pink is able to produce some Bourgogne Rouge or Marsannay Rosé. It can produce and all the terroirs that are too high or in the bottom of the slope that are not so bad. They are sometimes very good, but more modest. So the best terroirs are colored in red, and in pink there's Rosé and Bourgogne Rouge. Okay. In Marsannay, we are a bit different with the other villages because you have quite much 15-20% of Chardonnay that produce Marsannay Blanc. We are maybe the whitest village in Côte de Nuit. Because of history, in the past we had very much ligoté in Marsannay because we are selling it to Dijon in the factories and in the pubs. And
the aligoté is in the kind of bluey green color?
No. In the past it was everywhere.
Okay.
Like in all the villages. We have to remember that in the past, it means that in the past means more than 50 years ago, aligoté was planted in the best terroirs because it was a bit more productive than Chardonnay, maybe a bit more regular in maturities in many things. And when you will never try some Premier Crus and Grand Crus with aligoté, except in Morée. You know, in Morée, there's a very famous estate that is called Ponceau, who produces some Morée Premier Cru, les Montluisants, with 100% aligoté, and the vine was planted in 1911. 1911.
I didn't know that.
And it's very, very good. And Ponceau grandfather had tried Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, and aligoté, and he has decided that aligoté was so much better than Chardonnay in this place. And
you also produce a cuvée of aligoté, right?
Excuse me?
You also produce a cuvée of aligoté, right?
Yes. On my estate, I produce. This evening we'll try 3 wines, but on my estate I produce 26 different batches. Some of them are very confidential with just 2 or 3 barrels. Some other ones are a bit bigger. But I try to separate all the terroirs. I think that can show something to by testing. When there's an identity, I don't succeed to mix them. So I have many ones. Yeah, 6 different aligotés, 5 different Chardonnays, and the rest in Pinot.
And on that note, will we taste the first?
Yeah.
Taste wine? We taste.
Yeah.
So the first is Marsannay Blanc, 18. And 18 has been, and it's very interesting. This picture is very interesting. It's not it's just by hazard, but it has been made by Angélique, and it's the soil. It's exactly the parcel where the Marsannay Blanc has been produced. This parcel produces 70% of this batch. It's called Les Larrets. If you look on the map, it's completely at the top of the slope, close to Fissin. Look, it's not very easy. It's just it's in the south. Look on the left of the map. On the south of the map, there's a small pink place, completely on the left, about 3 centimeters from the bottom. And Larrey is just here.
Yeah, we can see it.
It's one of the highest places in the appellation. It's located on limestone, very strong limestone. It's always very stony. It's the soil is white of stones, and you will smell in the wine. Maybe this, it's a wood day. It's on the moon, on the moon, on the moon, on the moon. We are. No, I say mistakes. I'm looking to my phone where the. No, it's flower plus fruit mixed, and tomorrow it will be fruit. It will be wood, and it's very interesting. I don't know if you see the pictures. Maria Thun is a woman who was maybe made famous biodynamic in agriculture, and she has made many experiments in cultivating vegetables and fruits and vines, obviously. And there's still a calendar that is by her son on her team, and it's very interesting because you can look at the climate, you can understand many things about what will happen on climate, and about forest, about wine, about heat.
Yeah, but that's interesting because I think you has a really traditional educational background related to wine. You studied in Bordeaux, right? So why did you make the switch between the really traditional parts and then to switch to follow the biodynamic principles?
I think your question is very interesting, because when we listen to your question, we could believe that
it's two different
scientific studies are completely at the opposite of traditional and biodynamic contents and philosophy. And I think it's not like this. It's not because we have been an enologist or engineer, or I don't know. It's not because you try to understand science and biology and chemistry in the wine or in the plants that you can't understand that there's something else in the energy, in the magnetism, in many things like this that work. I'm very curious in understanding some things that have not been, all the things that have been studied in enology, but in many things like this, in human health, it's the same. All the things that have been studied are often some things that can be sold. It means that we never spend in universities, in big companies, we never spend money for something that is just to understand the life. If there's nothing to sell, there's no studies. And I wanted to just German and Switzerland people from about wine, from Changin and Geisenheim, have tried to understand why biodynamic works. They have made many experiments, and they have some results that are just starting to come. But everywhere else it has never worked, and I'm very curious about this. To try to find some new ways. Not obviously to say I don't want chemical products. I don't want, but I don't want to say always yes to something that has to be sold. Just like this, it would be so much easier to explain in French. But yeah, I'm very curious to understand differently.
Okay.
And the first step was testing. All the choices I made on my estate were made on my glass because I've been a logist in a big laboratory in Bonn, in a big and very technical. So I've learned very much about techniques, about science of wine, about experiments with as you said, I've studied in Bordeaux. It was gorgeous. It was very good. So the teachers were so impressive, and when you mix with people you meet, when I converted to biodynamic, it was due to Pierre Masson. If you want to look for some information about him, he's a French guy in Mâcon, in south of Burgundy, but he's famous. He was famous all over the world. He died 2 years ago. Pierre Masson is, he has made biodynamic a bit common. And the first times I've tried conventional wines, organic wines, and biodynamic wines in 1999, 2000, in a big estate in Volnay. I was so surprised. I couldn't believe that it was possible that just by small things in the vines, that the wines could be so different. And it's what made me change.
Okay. So the results made you change.
Just by testing, you have some experiments that you try some wines, and you make blind tastings, and suddenly you have some a sort of light that shows you the way, that says maybe it's your way. I don't mind if somebody doesn't understand, but I think it's the best way to make wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but actually, when we taste your wines, we can really see the result. Like it's like even the white, you have so much complexity and a lot of bitterness, saltiness at the end. Mm-hmm. It's quite unusual to have this bitterness or saltiness at the end of a Burgundy wine, white wine.
It's 18. 18 was very sunny, very warm, and the vines have been very stressed because of lack of water. Spring was a bit wet. It has been raining very much in spring, but it has been very dry and very hot. It's not warm. It was hot in summer. And the vines were very thirsty and very stressed by lack of water. And I think they've produced some tannins. And, my wines are alive. I always keep grass in the lines, in the walls. And I think they have. It's a reaction of the stress, but the salinity is due to not low yields, but some medium yields. In 18, I've produced for the whites 35 hectoliters by hectare, and I think this type of yields make some concentration. Mm-hmm. Plus no sulfur vinification, plus long pressings. I press for 5-6 years, hours. Yeah. It's better.
5 years is quite huge for.
Too much.
I see some comments coming in there's one coming in from Jem, who says, love the texture of the white, well done and hard vintage. What kind of press? I don't know, Jem, do you want to ask the question yourself and elaborate?
Maybe. You smell.
I was just going to ask what kind of press you use.
Ah, okay. I didn't hear. It was very bad at this time. All presses, because I have tried many type of presses, pneumatic presses and classical ones, but I use vertical presses after crushing grapes. It means that when we crush grapes, we extract juice very quickly before pressing, but we extract 60-70% of the juice very quickly when we fill the press. And crushing could be, it could be felt by like a very aggressive method, but it's completely the opposite. It permits to extract juice very quickly and very softly, because it's never aggressive. And at the end,
it's like is a basket press.
Yes, it's just yeah. It's a basket press, yeah. It's a very old one. I have 5 different ones in my estate, and the pressing lasts 5-6 hours, because you have to. Everything is made by hand. When it's after 2 hours, it's compacted, so you have to open it again, to take to take the skins, to take them off in a box, and you fill it again. In French, it's called rebêchage. I don't know the word in English, but it's rebêchage, and it needs to be made at least twice. Yeah.
But c'est égrappé. It's already.
No. It's all bunch. No. Yeah. And for pressing, it's very interesting and very important to keep the stems for 2 reasons. And maybe the salinity you smell is due to this, because in the skins there are many aromas and there are many minerals. And with basket presses, it's the pressure is quite low, but it's very long. And it's like if you were doing like this, instead of pressing very quickly, you break the cells of the skin, and it means that the must will go out from the skins between the cells, and not directly from the hole of the berry. And it means that it will catch some aromas, like a bit like when you make skin contact. You have some flavors in the wine, in the must, and there are some classical pressings. There have always been.
What's the pressure typically? Like, you press up to which pressure? Like 200? No.
I don't know. There are no. There's no measure. We don't know. We don't know the pressure, and we don't mind.
Okay.
We press. The way to press with a press like this is. You crush the grapes when you fill the press. It means that you put many solid, you have very much skins and stems because you extract 60-70% of juice when you fill the press, and it's directly extracted. So it means you make a very clear juice. And after then you press for 5-6 hours, and you just you pump, you press the press when the juice doesn't go anymore, and when it goes, you stop. You wait for 10-15 minutes. You press when the juice goes. You stop. So you don't mind the pressure, and the limit of the pressure is your end. You can't press more than the press is able to do. You can't, because you break it. And the pressure is always quite low, but it's long.
Okay.
I didn't expect such technical questions on the first wine. Would anyone like to jump in and say what they thought? I see Wilco maybe, or Helen, or if anyone wants to jump in, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Helen from Sicily, from Italy. I'm sorry that I didn't hear you at the beginning. I'm enjoying this wine a lot. actually. And this, Sylvain, I think Sylvain like said a secret of this wine, stalks. Like they are giving like one secret of this wine, of course, they are giving a bit of character, I think. And this slow press, like as a skin contact, it's giving a lot more expression of the fruit. Yeah.
Okay. Will we move on to the next one?
Yeah, we can move on to the red one if you want.
Thanks, Helen.
Except if anyone wants to add something, but yeah, we can move on to the second one actually. And also, Sylvain, I had another question actually, because you had a severe frost episode a few weeks ago. Could you please talk a bit about it? How did it affect you, all this frost? How did you manage to limit it, maybe?
It's quite difficult to answer. On the picture on the screen, we can see a safe bird on the left that is very nice, and on the left you can see that you see the woods that are just around the string. You can see that all the sticks or all the branches have no buds, or they have just one. On the first stock, you can see that you know the stake. You see the stake, and there's a branch on the left. Between in the middle, there are very small branches, and those ones have been frost. They have been frozen. Yeah, you can see that at least half of the buds have been burnt, and on the second plan, you can see that there's no many branches in the vine. So it's the result. It seems to be green, but all the branches you see on the stalk, they are on the bottom, and they won't produce grapes. So this one we are looking to is quite seriously burnt, but we don't know how to resist. I have tried to prune very late, to put the branches on the when you with a string we put the branches on the iron on the wire, and we have made it a bit later, and it has been successful this year. The vines that have been pruned late were safer than the other ones. But the frost was so serious this year. We had 3 nights with -5. It has been snowing on Tuesday the 7th. So you can't fight against this. It's too cold, and it's too cold. And snow is the worst. It burns everything. But pruning late has been very successful this year.
But you prune late because you were expecting some frost, or you prune late because
it was written in my moon calendar. I've looked to at the beginning of the testing to know the moon sign about testing. But yes, it was. I was nearly sure it was of frost this year on Mariatoun. You can look on the net after the testing. Mariatoun. I will show you the calendar.
I think someone put up their hand. It said Mr. Baloo wanted to put up their hand. Is there a question?
Hello and good evening. And I'm a sommelier in Italy, near Florence, and mine is not a question, but is a consideration. The factor that I like about this wine is a beautiful sensation of lemon, both on the nose and on the palate, and I like it. Is beautiful.
Right.
Yes, but we have talked about pressing. That is very interesting for me, but I think harvesting date with a very, to succeed to harvest the grapes just ripe, not too much, and not green is very interesting. And pressing for a long time. My wines are not decanted. They are never decanted. No sulfur for vinification and aging. No. Very low sulfur for my wines. At least 18, 20 months of aging. And I think after long aging, you lose some fresh aromas, some fresh aromas that are a bit artificial, And I think all those small things make the wine more resistant to oxygen and make it to be fresher and to be, like you said, lemon aromas. We don't control them because they just appear because they want to be air. But it's I think biodynamic is one of the way to obtain some fresh and energetic wines.
You were saying that the importance of the ripeness of the grape. How do you manage? Do you make an analysis of the grapes, or do you do it just by tasting the grapes?
Just by tasting, because analyses are just a sample of the grapes. It permits to know. It permits to control, to be sure that we don't start too early, because when 50 harvesters come in the estate, you can't be wrong. But I only decide by tasting.
Okay.
By tasting, it's like your glass. You understand everything, and you can. Your mouth is the best laboratory in the world. You can decide. You can smell richness, sugarness, minerality, acidity, pH. Your eyes show you the color of the skin, of the stems, of the the quality of the grapes, if there is botrytis or not, if it's too ripe, if it's burnt. It's eyes and mouth.
And you are not too afraid of the volatile acidity when it comes, because usually people are.
It's after pressing. Volatile acidity comes by during the fermentation, and when you don't use sulfur, and when you are confident with natural yeast and natural bacteria, we don't add anything. It's obvious you have more risks, but there are those risks who give complexity to the wine. Every time you use some commercial yeast or bacteria, you securize, you simplify the vinification, but you never win in complexity. You win in purity. It's easier to make the wine, but I think we always speak about acidity, about minerality, but there's nothing more efficient than natural yeast to give this. Look, it's 18. The wines were stressed, and it's not fat. It's not too ripe. It's not. There's a freshness. There's an acidity, and if you could see the values, they are not so good, and it's due to acidity and to natural acidity due to the yeast and to the energy of the grapes due to biodynamic, due to mushrooms, due to the soil is alive. But it's talking to a screen is not easy to explain this. But if you are coming in the vines, just by smelling the land, smelling the soil, it's so different between some friends who are neighbors in the vines, and you have seen on the pictures that it's spring. It has been the grass has grown very, very much, and I have kept it, and I am just by some very small plowings. I am taking the grass, and it's completely turned and to be under us, and it will ferment in the soil. If you look on the picture, it has been plowed 1 week ago.
Okay. You do it by horse? Right?
Yes, a small part of the estate. My estate is 18 hectares, and I plow by horse 2 hectares, 2.5 hectares. my best batches, my best tall vines that are very fragile, because I love them and I want to make them by horse. It needs too much time to make all the estate, and it's very expensive. But I plow by horse all ancestral and on aligotés.
Naligote.
And aligoté also.
Yeah.
Aligoté have the best treatment. They deserve the best. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that Peter Dorney had a question. Do you want to go ahead, Peter?
Excuse me.
Yes. Sylvain, I have a question. Since all the temperatures in the summers get higher and higher every year, and I know that 2019 and 18 were very hot in Burgundy. We have also friends there. How do you manage it with the alcohol, that the wines don't go too alcoholic?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And we have talked about ways we could use to reduce frost. If we prune later to reduce frost, we'll obviously change the harvesting date of 3, 4, 5 days. It means that will be more in September when the day is shorter, when it's cooler. And I think it's one of the ways at first. Second, it was very usual to take off leaves in all the vines in Burgundy, because in Burgundy we are a bit we are a complex of color with Pinot. We think that Pinot, in the past we are thinking that Pinot was a very elegant variety, but in the 90s, some guys like Parker were saying that it was uncolored and a bit light and a bit fluid and many things about this. So we have tried to change the way of culture, like they made in Bordeaux, to make some body-builded wines with too much color, with too much alcohol. So we have to forget this. We have to make the Pinots we would like to make in the past, and to make the Pinots you like, consumers. It's not interesting. It's not. We don't have to try to be the same than a Syrah from Côte-Rôtie. Pinot from Gevrey is a Pinot from Gevrey, and Syrah. And in the 90s, we have tried to copy this style of wine. And maybe we have to, when we cut the vines, if we have in the 90s and in the last years, we have the vines higher and higher to have more leaves, and more leaves make more photosynthetic activity, and higher sugars and higher phenolics. It was a very good way in the 90s, but if the sun is continuing like this, we'll have to decrease again. I've been the first one in Marsannay to cut the vines at 140 centimeters high, and I think we have to change very quickly, and we have to stop to take off leaves, for example, because when we take off leaves on the vines, to make that to put the grapes on the sun, it makes more colored wines. It makes some sweeter wines, but if the sun continues like this, if the summers are so high and so dry and so hot, it will be the opposite. We'll have to maybe try to catch the grapes to avoid them to be burned by sun, and to avoid them to present 15 degrees of alcohol. But I think it's not so difficult, because in Burgundy, the vine is a Mediterranean plant. It has been grown all over in Africa. It was born in close to Egypt, Iraq, and so it's not a problem. Sun is not a problem, but our method of culture is a problem. We have to maybe to convert it, and 18, 19, 20, the climate is the same. When you look at the the wine, when you look at the temperatures, it seems to be the same on a computer. When you look at the wines, 18 is very warm, but not as much as 2003, not as much as 15, not as much as 05, as 09, as 12. And it's very interesting because it seems that the vine is understanding that he has to survive, it has to change. And I think the woods are going down to look for water, to look for freshness, and the wines we vinify are not as much impacted than 03, for example, that were smelling really burnt grapes. And I think the vines and the wine growers will try and we understand how to change. I'm confident in future, especially in Burgundy, because it's still raining and we can change many things. And after, I don't think Pinot and Chardonnay will disappear from here. And Syrah is not able to be wiped here. Some friends have planted some just to enjoy on some few stocks, and it's never good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your elegant wines, Sylvain.
Ah, Marsannay, the village.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you had time to taste the second wine, and if anybody wants to add something about the wine. It's quite amazing. I love the texture of your wine, actually. It's always like the rays are always really velvety and silky. It's quite nice. I don't know if anybody wants to add something on the wine. Or...
Could you show the map of terroirs, please, to show you where the Marsannay village has been made and where Clos du Roy has been made?
Yes, and we can move on to the third one. So,
Please.
so here is the map, and then this is Clos du Roy.
Voilà, yeah. On the circle, Clos du Roy. So Clos du Roy was called Clos des Ducs, and in the 15th century, it has been called Clos du Roy when the King of France have won against Dukes of Burgundy.
Because Roy means king.
And yeah. Clos des Ducs. I can't explain. It was a question last week with French people with the same testing. Why in Volnay it's still Clos des Ducs? And I can't answer. And I will ask to my friend who is a historian. One of my friends is historian. She's very good, and she's the girl who has made the maps. She's geologist and she knows many things about history. I can't explain. Maybe, but because of it's maybe not historical. It's just for fun. It has been called Clos des Ducs. But we'll look for. I want to explain it. Marsannay is a village appellation, so it's in the medium of the range. With the classical Burgundy classification, with a generic, with Bourgogne, village, Premier Cru, and we hope Clos du Roy to become a Premier Cru in the future. And as I told you, it's very long for the classification. It needs between 20 to 30 years. It's who decides, the administration, but we don't mind because the soils are like they are, and the human classification is nothing. And in your glass, you can smell it. And village is made on the vines are located on in the bottom of the slope, on top of the slope, and Clos du Roy is in the middle of the slope. And in Burgundy, the middle of the slope is always the best because there's a mix, between the best limestones and the best clays. And Clos du Roy is a quite warm and structured place with a stone that has been very sensitive to the frost and defrost periods in the geology. Several million years ago, when the Burgundy was it was frozen with ice. And the stone has been exploded by frost and defrost, and as this way, there are some small guevos, like never bigger than nails, and as this way, it has liberated much iron, much magnesium, many minerals you can smell in the mouth. So, it's a bit ripe, a bit warm on the superficie, 50, 60 centimeters of very wet land, wet soil. And on the soil, it's at the opposite. It's very white of limestone, like chalk. So there's a sort of antagonism between soil and another soil, and it's always one of the more mineral soil and non-mineral wine in the appellation. Strengths, but it's always strong, but we always quite elegant, always quite fun. So you try a village and a future premier cru. And the aging is a bit the same. So it's the same vinification than the whites, no sulfur for vinification. Match all bunch. For the village, I don't remember, but 60, 70% all bunch. For Clos du Roy, 100%. So it's not distant at all. The maceration lasts 3 weeks in tanks after it's pressed with the same presses than for the whites, some presses by hand, and they stay for 18 months in barrels. We are just starting today 19 bottlings. We have started this morning with Bourgogne Rouge 19.
Okay, 2019. Okay.
And actually, we have a question about aging because actually that was also a question I had, because usually we drink Marsannay quite young, and actually your Marsannay still, like, they already taste really, really good. Like although they are really young, they taste already really ready. Would it be even better if we let them a bit age, or?
Maybe yes. Maybe yes.
We have to try. We have
Yes,
to try
yes,
many
yes. Of course, yes. And it's the same reason than for the Marsannay Blanc. With low yields, you keep some. You have concentration, and concentration is concentration gives resistance to oxidation, gives phenolics, gives density, gives volume in the mouth. And it's like when you make tea. If you just if you make one cup of tea or 1 liter of tea, the taste won't be the same. And when you produce high yields by pruning long, by not selecting the grapes, it doesn't mean that the wines won't be good, but they will be a bit more diluted. They won't be concentrated. And those wines, especially 18, with very, very sunny vintages, will be they are very good values for aging. 18 will be so good in 10, 20, 30 years. It's obvious.
30 years? That's quite a lot.
Yes. Yes, but 30 years is not so. No, it's not so long. When you try some 90s wines, we often, when we go to see friends in Burgundy, and after tastings, it's quite common to try some 90, 93, 95, 96. They are still very good.
Okay. Helen, did you have a question? I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, I had one quick question. Sylvain, do you do any filtration, or like it's all about natural decantation?
Maybe both. It depends on the wine, on the vintage. And I often leave the wine safe with no filtration on the 80-90% of the tank, by decanting. When they are in the barrels and in the tanks, all the wines stay at least 1 year in barrels and 6 months in tanks. And the best lieux-dits, the strongest wines, stay at least 18 months in barrels. And when we wax them, we put them in tanks for bottling for several months, maybe. For example, the wines we are bottling this morning, have been whacked. Bourgogne Rouge have been whacked in October. They were in tanks. And to bottle them, we have pumped them with no filtration on the top of the tank for 80-90% of the volume of the tank, just by pumping by the top. And in the bottom, where the lees are located, especially for 90s, I've decided after some tests of filtration, I've filtered them, but with some very large filtration. In French we say dégrossissante, but it was very light. So just 10% of the wine will be filtered. But it was just because it's 19 that was a bit animal, a bit filtrating 10% of the wine has given purity to the wine. But I will maybe won't do it on 20s, and I didn't filter anything on 70s. It's again just by testing. I try to avoid filtration, but some very light filtration can be very interesting. And
okay, sure.
You often filter more the red wines and nearly never filter whites because of wets in the wets in the red wines. We sometimes have some Brettanomyces that gives some horses aromas that are not so good. But normally we don't have to filter. It depends on the testing. Some batches need it or not. But it's I try to avoid it. But it's not, it's not. When I decide to filter, it's not a mistake. It's just because the wine shows better. The best decision you can make is when you have two glasses of, for example, filtered wine and unfiltered. You mix them, and which is the best?
Yeah, like it's the way you accompany the wine.
And I always take the decision by myself, but in my team, with my workers, there's my brother, there's Pascal, there's Mathilde, who are very sensitive to wine, who try very well, who buy very much wine, and they always go in wine bars everywhere, and
they're good tasters.
Yeah, we often take the decision together.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if there's a line to ask questions.
Go ahead, please.
I guess the first wine I really loved of yours was the La Montagne.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that you said that the regular Marsannay is 70% whole bunch and Clos du Roy is 100%. And I imagine La Montagne is also 100%.
Yeah.
And when I tasted La Montagne and also Clos du Roy, they have something that reminds me of semi-carbonic wines, much more than the regular Marsannay, which is only 70%. So my question is, maybe you don't do semi-carbonic sort of directly, but the fact that there is so much whole bunch, 100% whole bunch, that probably means that there's a certain amount of intracellular fermentation going on that creates some of those semi-carbonic aromas and spices. So is this, I mean, do you do kind of consciously semi-carbonic, or is the impression that these wines are semi-carbonic, does it come from the whole 100% whole bunch and a certain amount of intracellular fermentation that goes on in whole bunch, even if you press it?
Maybe both, because I don't add CO2 in my tanks in the harvest, but La Montagne and Clos du Roy, for example, La Montagne is a very small batch. It's just 3-4 barrels, so it means that the tank is quite small and the weight of grapes is not so high. So it means that the weight of the tank won't press the grapes and won't liberate juice. So it's certainly a bit not carbonic, but I think there's a bit more carbonic than in a big tank of 60 or 50 or 60 hectoliters. But and it's maybe due to the style of the grapes that give always some very fresh fruit, some very green fruit, and you know, La Montagne is a lovely place with directly planted on limestone, south located, but from to the comb. So it means that it's fresh in the morning, it's fresh in the evening, it's fresh in spring, it's fresh in autumn. The harvesting has to be late, but in summer it's incredibly warm. It's hot. It's on oven, and I think it's the style of the wine and of the parcel. It's never black. It's never overripe. But the small tank makes that the skins on the berries are safer. But you know, I think carbonic and semi-carbonic fermentation is interesting in the wine because it gives complexity. But I hate it when it's stronger than terroir. So I always try to crush my grapes. You know, I use whole bunch, but when the grapes are starting to ferment after 1 week, when you know when when the alcohol, when the fermentation is starting to change the color of the skins, we crush the grapes to liberate juice, not to extract by. We don't crush, we punch down. Not to extract tannins, but just to liberate juice for the fermentation to be normal and to be a maceration between juice and skins. Because I don't want my fermentations to be controlled by semi-carbonic or carbonic fermentation. Because for my mind, it's a technical way that is very interesting, that gives very good wines. But with those methods, I lose too many informations of my soil, of my grapes, of the vintage.
Thank you.
Guys, we're running out of time soon. We've just gone 8 o'clock, but we have we have a couple of more minutes for some questions. I think that I hope no one has finished all of their red wines, because it would be nice to go back and taste the other one when you're after the Clos du Roy. If anyone wants to do that. If anyone has any more questions, jump in. If you're not running off for dinner.
Yeah. If I can I ask a question? I'm speaking a lot today, but what can I do? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm sommelier, and from the first lessons, I have always tried to explain the concept of terroir, a word that contains many elements. What is terroir for you? What does represent?
Terroir for me is everything. It means that we have to be, you know, it's like music. Making wine is like music. Everything is written, and we just have to be good to when we'll be playing. You know, we are. I don't know the word interprète, maybe.
Interpreter. Yeah.
Yeah. You know. We are making wine right now, but someone's have made some wine with the same terroirs before, and someone will make wine after us. And my job is trying to translate this information year after year, knowing that that vintage and climate will change the message. But to try, when you try the wines, you know, I've told you I make 26 wines. And I absolutely want them to show you the map of the appellation. And when you try the wines, you have to, you know, wine is not necessary, but it's a part of our culture. There's so much exchange between humans when you try wines. And imagine you take a glass and you try to, it's a blind tasting. You try to find where this wine comes from. It's not so easy to find. It's a Pinot Noir. It's not so easy to find. It comes from Burgundy, but with the wine, with the testing, you have to try to understand that it's a lime. It smells limestone. It seems to be from this place. We won't be able to say it's Marsannay or Gevrey with blind testing at the beginning. Maybe it needs experiments. It needs very much experience. It needs many things, and it means that I have to answer to a question about the difference between Marsannay and Gevrey. But you know, I want you to travel when you try the wines, to try to understand and to to have the memory of this wine by saying it was a Marsannay. Oh, I don't mind if it's not a Pataille, because I don't want my wines to be Pataille, because if they are just Pataille, it's a brand, it's it's industry. And obviously when we make wine, we have a sensibility and we give a style to the wine. But I try year after year to discover the message of the vintage, of the soil, of the plant, and obviously the techniques we use in the vines, all what we'll make in the wines and in the vines will change the wine. But I try to disappear behind the terroir, and behind terroir is terroir is the translation of the soil in your glass. And you have, when you look, when you smell, when you're doing this wine, you have to say, oh, it's a Burgundy. I don't know, is it good for you?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And Helen, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, my question was what future do you see for the region and this movement of artisanal, natural, biodynamic wines? What future do you see?
It's so good because it gives it moves so many styles, so many habits, and it means it's the evolution. And our children will certainly change their point of view of the wines they want to make. You consumers are changing, and we have to be able to adapt, to understand that you don't want to drink the same wines than our grandfathers, and we don't want to make and to drink the same wines. And it's obvious the future it's life. We have to change to understand the environment, and it's true in industry, it's true in many things. And it's so good because it means that we won't make the same job for 50 years. It's so boring to make the same all the time.
Is there a last
Thanks.
question?
Thanks, and thanks for this wine tasting. It was excellent to know you and to know your thoughts about all the winemaking techniques and all these things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure for me to show you the wines.
Yes, thank you so much, Sylvain. If anyone has any last, maybe one last question or one last comment, otherwise we'll finish up. This was the first time I had actually tasted your wines, and I don't think I'll be forgetting them anytime soon, so thank you very much. I don't see any more questions coming in the chat.
Okay, so actually that's really good. We managed to keep the schedule. We are really proud of you. Thank you, Sylvain. It was really great and amazing. It's always an amazing pleasure to taste your wines. And I just wanted to say, because it was actually our first tasting in Europe, we will do another one on June 30.
Yes, the 30th of June.
And we will have the pleasure to have Chateau Smith-Lafitte.
Yes, so from Burgundy, we'll be going to Bordeaux and having 6 wines from Smith or Lafitte. So we hope you will join us for the next one. It will go live on the website very soon. And we hope if you enjoyed it this evening that we'll see you again.
And I think there is already someone asking to visit the domain, so I'm sure that you will be welcome.
Yes, Sylvain, can we come and visit?
Yeah.
Great.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much all for being here.